Last summer, a father and his son died in a tragic whitewater rafting accident on the Snake River of eastern Idaho. Their raft was overturned in a rapid, and the father and his son fell in. They were later found and pronounced dead at the scene. Although whitewater rafting is a fun and fulfilling hobby, accidents like these happen every year in the state of Idaho and across the country. My name is Charlie Barnes, and the goal of this speech is to teach you the fundamentals of rafting, the proper use of equipment, and how to research and scout the river, so that you can be better educated about whitewater rafting to help reduce the risks and enjoy this wonderful summertime activity. I gained this knowledge from a summer working professionally for a guide company, as well as many summers guiding recreationally with and learning from experienced rafters in a variety of different situations. So let's start with the fundamentals of rafting. A guide's primary roles are to keep the people safe on the water, entertain guests, and navigate the boat. This is done best by adhering to the fundamentals of guiding, which are steering the raft, communication, and performing rescues if need be. There are different forms of rafting and guiding, but I will only be covering paddle guiding in this speech because it is the easiest and most common. Steering the raft is what guides are known for. When rafting, the passengers paddling and the river itself are your source of power. You are just the rudder that steers the ship. The passengers can only really go forward or backward, so it is important to angle the front of the raft to where you would like to go. This can be achieved from front strokes, pulling the water toward you, or back strokes, pushing the water away, like seen in these photos here. To turn right, a right-handed guide would perform a backstroke by digging in the paddle directly behind him and pushing it away to his right. To turn left, a right-handed guide would perform a front stroke by digging in the paddle as far out to the right of his body and pulling it toward him. It would be the exact opposite for a left-handed person, with digging in away from the cells and pulling in to turn right, and digging behind and pushing away to turn left. As you raft, you'll be making constant small adjustments to ensure that the nose of the raft is facing the right way and you are staying in the current. Like I said before, you are the rudder and your passengers are your source of power. So that is why communication is so important, because they need to know what you want them to do. You will use commands like all forward, telling your crew to perform front strokes, and all back, telling them to perform back strokes. These are really the only two commands that I use personally. But some guides also like to have one of their sides use back or front strokes to help them steer, like left forward or back right. You also need to be able to communicate with other rafts in your group. Rapids are extremely loud, so this can be done through hand and arm signals, such as pointing to the top of your head to say that you are okay, waving your hand above your head and pointing to determine a rally point or resting area, or waving your paddle above your head to say that you need help. Which leads to our final fundamental, how to perform a rescue. There are two ways to perform a rescue. The first is with a throw bag, and the other is just by going and retrieving them with the raft itself. A throw bag is a bag of coiled rope that is attached to the side of the raft. You want to throw the throw bag past the person downstream so that the current will take them to it. They will grab onto the rope and not the bag so that you can pull them to safety. If they grab onto the bag, it will just keep uncoiling and they will continue to float downriver. Once you pull them in, you have to get them inside of the raft. This is best achieved by grabbing on either side of the life jacket by the shoulders and pulling them in on top of you, as seen in the photo to the right. Now that we understand the fundamentals of rafting, we can discuss the equipment. A guide's job is to know the ins and outs of rafting equipment, how they are used, and how to teach your passengers how to use them. The life jacket and the paddle are the two most important items that you will use every time that you raft. Although the paddle seems straightforward, there's a correct way to use it so that it is both effective and safe to those around you. Also keep in mind that it is your job to teach this to your passengers each time that you raft. So it is important when holding the paddle that is perpendicular to the water, as seen in this photo right here, and that your top hand is rested right at the T-bar or the top of the paddle, and that your bottom hand, or right hand for right-handed rafters, is at the bottom. This prevents the top of the handle from hitting other people in the face, which can cause a lot of damage. It is also important to be seated correctly in the raft itself, When paddling, when using the paddle, you want to have one cheek on the side of the tube and the other cheek on the thwart, which is these inner tubes. This way you can have a good angle towards the water and that you can get the most power when you paddle. The next piece of equipment is the life jacket. So the life jacket is your most important piece of equipment. No matter what you do, under no circumstances should you ever raft without one. It is important to tighten all the straps. Breathing is an option, so you want them as tight as physically possible. So here's some examples of some rafting life jackets. Next. Although those two items are must-have items while rafting, there are other items you may want to consider when you're on your trips. These other two items are first the safety knife, which would sit right on your chest of the life jacket, and this is to be used in the event that you were entangled in rope and can't get free, so you can cut yourself free. And the other item is helmets. Most companies that you raft with will enforce the use of helmets, but most recreational rafters don't use them. It's just kind of your call, and depending on the intensity of the rapid that you'll be rafting. So now that we have a base knowledge on how to guide and how to use the equipment, now we need to learn to read the river. This is one of the single most important parts of being a whitewater rafting guide, because every river is different, and because of varying water levels throughout the year, no two rafting trips are exactly the same. Because of this, it is very important to understand different parts of the river, to scout the river before rafting, and to be able to read the river and adjust on the fly. There's a lot more to a river that meets the eye, and understanding how it works will help you navigate it. There are a few rafting terms that I'd like to cover that you must understand in order to be a guide. The first one is the current. Here, go ahead. The current is a body of water moving in a definite direction. As seen in this photo right here, you can see the current moving to the right. That's where the majority of the water flow is going. The next one is an eddy. So an eddy is a river formation that occurs usually when the water hits an object like rocks and creates a calm part of the river. Water sometimes does not move in these areas, or at times flows upstream. So as you can see in the diagram down here, water is flowing this way and hits this sort of bank and curves back around. Eddies are very important for rafting because they are usually calm spots. So if you are having issues with gear or just would like a break, you can tell your crew using hand and arm signals to flow into an eddy so you can take a rest. The last one is a rapid. Rapids are fast-flowing and turbulent parts of the course of a river. They are caused by a rock and debris formations on the water that causes waves to crash together. So usually they're pretty easily identifiable by the actual whitewater aspect of them. You can usually see them from your car when you're driving around. So it's important to do research beforehand to know what kind of class of rapids are on the stretch of the river that you would wish to raft on. You should only go on a class 1, 2, and 3 rapids as a beginner. There are also 4, 5, and 6 for more extreme rafters. So that is why scouting the river, which is our next point, is so important. So scouting the river can help you see potential issues before you ever get on the river. It's usually conducted by driving around alongside the river when possible, or just hiking out and checking out the rapids before you ever get on the water. A good example of why this is so important is Ruby Rapid in northern Idaho by Riggins, which is a class 3, which is a manageable rapid for most beginning rafters in low water, but a 5 in high water. All right, next one. And then the last point is reading the river. So this is something that you're constantly doing while rafting. You're looking, as the guide, you are always looking ahead and trying to identify possible issues, whether that's a tree in the river or identifying the best place to go enter a rapid. Next one. In conclusion, whitewater rafting is a fun and fulfilling way to experience the beauty that surrounds us in the Idaho area. Wilderness activist Bob Marshall said, "Swift or smooth, broad as the Hudson, or narrow enough to scrape your gunwales, every river is a world of its own, unique in pattern and personality. Each mile on a river will take you further from home than 100 miles on the road. Through good rafting fundamentals, proper use of protective equipment, and prior study and analysis of the river, we ensure that we make it home safe."